Masualle is expected to attend an ANC Special Provincial Elective Conference meeting at Calata House today. He's been summoned by the Provincial Executive Committee to answer about events leading up to the funeral of the late statesman Nelson Mandela. The Public Protector released her report on the Mandela funeral scandal. She found that there was maladministration and misappropriation of funds amounting to 300 million rand by the Eastern Cape government in preparing for Madiba's funeral. The ANC in the Eastern Cape now wants ANC officials to answer. Our reporter Busisiwe Jemsane is at Calata House where that meeting is underway. Good afternoon to you, Busisiwe. Is the Premier there?
Well, Francis, the time has just gone past 12. There's no sign of Phumulo Masualle. The meeting is continuing inside the PEC meeting. He was supposed to be here, as we hear, around about 9 this morning with the top officials, the top 5 of the province, to answer about events leading up to the funeral of the late Nelson Mandela. Now the question is, could this be Phumulo Masualle defying the PEC once again? Well, it remains to be seen if, as the day progresses, he will become part of this. But remember, Francis, since the election of the new PEC in September, Masualle has never attended any meeting that is convened by them. In fact, he's one of the people who wrote to Luthuli House to say that this Provincial Executive Committee has been elected unconstitutionally. Now the investigation is ongoing over those disputes, and him not attending this meeting might as well be a sign that he's saying he does not recognize them and he will not answer to them. It would have been interesting on the other side, Francis, to see him walking inside Calata House to answer to a PEC that he says he does not recognize. But currently we have not seen him, but we have seen top officials in the Buffalo City Metro municipality who are also implicated in the Nelson Mandela funeral saga. We've seen former Mayor Zuki Swancita. We've also seen ANC Councillor Gompa, who also need to be here. We're also summoned to come and answer about the events leading to that funeral. You'll remember that soon after the funeral in 2014, the Hawks made arresting top officials in the Buffalo City. In terms of the Premier, though, what involves him in the saga is that 250,000 rands was transferred to his personal bank account. At the time, he was the MEC at the Economic Development Department, but after that, he demanded that the money be reversed, saying that it cannot be in his bank account. The Public Protector also confirmed that he did not benefit from the money, but it was inappropriate for the money to be deposited into his personal account. Francis.
But Sisiwe, so this is the ANC calling him to account. Like you said, he doesn't recognize the provincial leadership, but could this go further to the national leadership of the ANC? And what beyond that? Because this is being seen by many as a disgrace.
Francis, there seems to be a problem between me and I in terms of me hearing you, but what I can tell you is that all this is happening at the eve of a judgment of the High Court in Grahamstown. Remember that some members, disgruntled members of the ANC, following the elective Congress in September, took the matter to court to say the Provincial Executive Committee was elected unconstitutionally, and the case was being heard in the Grahamstown High Court. Tomorrow we are expecting a judgment on that matter, and it remains to be seen, and it is something that is going to be interesting, Francis. You'd know that we're counting less than a week before the National Congress. Also, will Premier not attending this meeting mean anything after tomorrow? Of course, depending on who the court decides against or with, if the current PEC remains in power, or if the court says that they were indeed elected unconstitutionally. Will that bear any bearing on the current state of things between the government and the Provincial Executive Committee, the political side of things, and whether or not, if there are stamped by the courts to say that they were elected constitutionally. What actions will they take against the Premier for continuously defying the Provincial Executive Committee? There are also rumors lingering, Francis, that there's a cabinet reshuffle that is looming, that some members of the PEC have been saying that the chairperson and the secretary as top officials must recall the Premier and they must make him reshuffle his cabinet. Just a few weeks ago, the Provincial Secretary wrote to Social Development MEC following the launch of the 16 days of activism that turned out to be a failure after very little or small numbers of people attended. Such harsh words that were said in that statement, that she is behaving in an arrogant manner and that she should pay back the money that was wasted in that event. Those all, to some analysts say, those point out to a reshuffling of the cabinet that is looming. But what we've been hearing, Francis, is that before the Premier can be reshuffled, if he will be reshuffled, there needs to be a cabinet reshuffle before that. Whether or not that will happen before the National Congress remains to be seen, or whether or not it will happen next year after the January 8th, it is also something that is yet to be seen and something that we'll be keeping a close eye on and following up on, looking at the proceedings of how the government and the party continues. Remember also something very important, Francis, that there was a delegation from Luthuli House that was that convened to the province to try and investigate the constitutionality of the Provincial Executive Committee. That report is to be tabled to the NEC, which will decide if the structure is legitimate or not. Francis.
All right, thank you very much, Busisiwe Jimsana. Waiting for the Premier to arrive. It looks unlikely, and she was live from King Williamstown, Calata House.